Gettysburg Seminary presents the Seminary Explores podcast. Conversations on faith, art, people, politics, theology, life, and more, with voices from around the corner and around the globe.
Good day. Welcome to the Seminary Explorers. My name is Nelson Stroberg, and today my guest is Jay Eckman, who is a second-year seminarian at the Lutheran Theological Seminary here at Gettysburg. Welcome to the Seminary Explorers.
Oh, thank you. Good to be here.
One of the exciting things that I think about seminary education is that you do a variety of things, some within the curriculum and some outside of the curriculum. And today we're going to talk about something that you did outside of the curriculum, and that is you were involved in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America's youth gathering, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay, for our listening audience, what is a youth gathering?
A youth gathering, particularly this one, is where we have about 30,000 kids that come from around the country to serve in a city. This time it was in Detroit. To serve and learn and to worship together. So it's a crazy, fun, spirit-filled time together.
For young people, what are the ages of these young people?
Yeah, so typically in this particular gathering, it's 9th to seniors in high school.
Oh, okay. Yes. Now, is it held every year?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years. Yes. So during the high school years, one might be able to go.
Yes, and if you're lucky enough, like myself, when I was going through high school, you get to go twice. So if you get your 9th grade year, and then you get to go your senior year.
That's right.
So yes,
that's really good, depending on the timing.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
But how did you develop your interest in the youth gathering?
Well, I went as a participant way back when I was a freshman in high school, and when the Lutheran Youth Organization was still as part of the ELCA. I was elected board member and got involved in some of the planning my senior year of high school, and so that stemmed my interest in the youth gathering, and have been increasing my involvement ever since.
Okay, and why did you choose to go to this particular youth event, which was in Detroit?
Yeah, the city of Detroit in general just needed a lot of help and assistance, and visiting the city, the people, you just fall in love with the people. It's a hard city, but it's a city where they're in the midst of a renaissance. And so to be a part of that is just a great blessing.
Okay, you said it's a hard city. How describe for our listening audience what you mean by a hard city?
It's a hard-working city, and a people who have been hurt in the past by government, by organizations, and so there's a tough skin there. Mm-hmm. They're industrial people, and so very hard workers, very down to earth, but very, very genuine and nice once you get to know them.
Okay. And you said that in the youth gathering, youth go and serve and help out in various areas of that city. And what were some of the what were some of the things that you remember doing at a youth gathering? And then what were some of the service places for this year's?
Yeah, being a participant and now a planner of the event has changed drastically, and for the better. And so when I remember going, it was very much a lot of learning and seeing the city.
Right.
And a lot of the events took place around what we call the mass gathering, which is every evening we get together, we hear speakers, mm-hmm. we hear musicians, and that sort of thing. Now, ever since 3 cycles ago, mm-hmm. Since Katrina in New Orleans, so we were in New Orleans twice, mm-hmm. and now Detroit, the planning aspect has changed where they choose a city on need, and so the service aspect is a relatively new piece to the gathering, and it has fundamentally changed, I think, the way that we think about the gathering and the way we think about the church in general and our mission.
Right. Well, one of my colleagues from Texas was instrumental in forming that type of or reforming that emphasis of the youth gathering. Dr. Evelyn Parker. When you said what were some of the places that students were involved in?
Yeah, so there was a lot of students going to various neighborhoods and doing hands-on service, and so cleaning up houses, going to schools. There's a lot of social clubs that youth were involved in. I think there's about 600 neighborhood block clubs that were affected.
Oh, really?
Gathering. Yeah, there was 36 urban gardens installed, picnic tables. I think 99 picnic tables were built. They painted a lot, so there's 2,033 mural boards were painted and created to beautify Detroit. Youth made hats. There was a whole scope of things that youth were doing all over the city. Okay.
Now, you said you were involved in the planning.
Yes.
What were your responsibilities? Which is really unique, having been a participant as a high schooler and now as a seminarian and being part of that planning process.
So my role, I was on what we call the community life planning team, and so our main role, we do a variety of things. One of them is hire volunteers to be in the hotels to assist youth and be hosts to the youth and be a liaison to youth groups and the hotel venues, because most hotels aren't used to having a hotel full with youth groups.
Indeed.
Another thing that we do is there's in-between times where youth groups might have downtime, and so we fill those spaces. And so my main role was the program director or coordinator of the community life events. And so we throw concerts, dances, worship every morning. And this year, which is new, we had a morning show. A 2-hour morning show that was webcasted, and we had hosts and youth participated in games and all kinds of things. So
okay, and you said that you during the part of that responsibility was putting together concerts. Yeah. Who were some of the people? Were these the youth in the youth gathering who were part of the concerts, or did you contract with people outside of?
A little bit of both. The main talent that we had was David Shear, or Agape, which many youth know around the Synod. He's a fairly well-known artist, Lutheran white rapper. We have Rachel Kurtz is also a main feature of our venue, and she's another phenomenal artist within the Lutheran world who actually just created a blues liturgy service.
Oh, okay.
Phenomenal singer, both great to work with. We also contracted with some local artists. We try to get a feel of both internal and from the city feel. So we did feature some youth. So we did a gathering idol sort of thing where youth can display their own talent and bring their instruments and sing in front of the crowd. And then the winners we actually had on our morning show, which was a great addition, that they could be recognized for their talent and gifts and share that with the community.
Okay. Was the morning show like a news program or a morning news, to get them together or to focus the day? Or could you explain that?
It was a variety of things. Partly it was news. One of the things we do with the gathering and part of the community life offers is a first 15 and a final 15, which is a morning devotion. Okay. And so part of the show we had live music. We did a devotional every day. We had local nonprofits on the show where we interviewed. We had entertaining games for youth to play. We even did the weather and made it a fun game that youth could participate in. We had bishops every morning, so one of the featured segments was bishops and bagels. And so bishops came on and we fed them bagels in the morning and gave them coffee and had just a nice conversation about their call and what does a bishop do, where they see the future of the church going and that type of thing. And so we had a live studio audience of about a couple hundred youth to 1,000 youth show up every morning, and it was a good turnout for a first time, I think.
Oh, good, A very unique, a unique piece. You mentioned that you also had speakers. Who were some of the speakers that these young people heard? And were they only Lutheran speakers, or was it an ecumenical group of people?
It was a variety of speakers. One of the things that we heard previously was that youth would like very down-to-earth personal stories. And so that was a main feature of the gathering, is that we had some people that were through ELCA. One of them was Mika McCracken, who went through the ELCA school system and very much in the East Chicago offices and very active. And so she spoke and told her story. But then we had some bigger name speakers that also shared their story. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Now you have a gathering of 30,000 young people, but you have a gathering of 30,000 young people. But is there a time when they are in smaller groups?
Yeah, so one of the newer structures that was introduced as well is called a synod day. And so groups will gather with their own synod, they'll worship with their own synod, and they'll also do interactive learning that goes along with a larger theme. And so the theme, this gathering was Rise Up Detroit. Mm-hmm. And so they talked about social justice issues, what's going on in Detroit economically, politically, and also put that in a theological context. And so, yeah, so groups did do stuff as a large community, so we're all gathered together, but also synodically, and then also in their youth groups. So there's things and conversations that they did in their groups.
Oh, within the congregation or the group they came with.
Yeah, and also when they're going to their service site, they have a servant companion that helps them debrief their experience. And so you'd have a busload of other youth that you're with and other youth groups, and your servant companion would debrief that with you and put that in a biblical context and theological context for your group.
Which is I think really significant, because they could do these projects with any other organization, but when the church decides or is intentional about these service projects, mm-hmm. To know that this is done in relationship to their faith and to the Christian tradition of serving the neighbor.
Yeah, and serving with the neighbor, I think, is another huge piece that has been introduced in the past gathering cycles. And so, what I really appreciate about the gathering is that we go and visit the city. We get to know the locals. We get to know local nonprofits and other faith groups, mm-hmm. and we work with them and ask them, "What do you need? How can we work with you in this?" And so the city's benefiting, but also the church is benefiting in a mutual relationship.
That's really important. As you reflect as a seminarian. Now, the seminarian hat, what do you think is the significance of the youth gathering and gatherings like this for the church, the Lutheran Church, or for other denominations, other churches doing gathering young people?
Yeah, I think we just actually talked about this in the class this morning in rural ministry class that I'm taking here, and a lot of youth groups don't realize how big ELCA is. And so they have no idea that there's other youth that are Lutherans, that are passionate about Christ. And so one of my favorite parts of the gathering is Sunday worship, where you're communing with 30,000 other youth and other Lutherans. Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge impact for a lot of youth, and it was a big moment when I was a ninth grader and can remember having communion and mm-hmm. worshiping and having others who are excited to do that together. I think that's a huge piece, and I think we can't underestimate that. Okay. I also think that because it's such a large gathering, it's not only the largest gathering of youth, but also largest demographic growing for our youth gathering is adults. And so adults are hungry for this type of experience as well. I think many adults are yearning to be serving in their communities, that are yearning for more scripture and word and worshiping together. And so that's another piece that I think is important for this type of gathering.
Are you saying that that the adults who participate become more enthusiastic about from the gathering in terms of their own faith development?
Yeah, I think so, and seeing that they have the chance to also talk to their peers and share experiences, but also be uplifted by all these youth that are so passionate about their faith, and seeing the locals and hearing their story, and taking that energy back to their home congregations, and just being filled anew to do God's work.
Oh, okay. You mentioned the components of the youth gathering and the planning, etc. Are there elements that you would add, or have you? Maybe it's too recent, but have you received any feedback as to what changes might emerge from this youth gathering?
Yeah, I know that the thinking of just logistical things, transporting 30,000 kids from hotels to their work sites is a difficult endeavor, and I'm glad that I'm not on the transportation team. And so there's rethinking of how do we go about doing that.
Okay.
And there has been some conversation about that. I'm not sure if I have the best answers for that.
Okay.
Each city is its own kind of beast.
Right. Unique. Yeah. It's a unique entity.
Yeah. One of the pluses about being in New Orleans is that everything was very walkable, and a lot of the hotels were locally centered.
Right.
Some other cities aren't like that. Like
right.
Detroit was very scattered, and so you'd have kids and youth groups traveling in a bus for 40 minutes to get to their site or get to where the mass gathering was. And so those types of, how do you include everyone, and also how do you include, and this is one of the questions I have, is how do you include those who cannot go to the gathering, the congregations that might not send their youth, or have parents that are curious about what's happening at the gathering. And so I think that's partly why we had the morning show, is that people can tune in and see a little bit about what's going on.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So, and in some ways, you're using technology to spread, to share the experience.
Yes, and that's a huge advantage that we have now, that it's so easy to communicate with one another on such a large mass.
That's really good. As you reflect on your experience as high schooler, as now seminarian, and on the planning committee, how do you see your involvement in this area of ministry, of this youth gathering, assist you in your preparation for parish ministry? I should say that you are a MDiv student, a Master of Divinity student, preparing for ordination in the Lutheran Church.
I guess I'm a little biased because I'm part of the planning teams, but I think there's a huge value in having these types of gatherings. And whether they're a synodical gathering or on a national gathering, mm-hmm. I think having congregants go to these types of events to learn more about service and think about ways that they can do service within their local context is essential. And so that's one of the big questions, is how do we continually think outside the box of how do we engage in our communities? And I think these types of events help us better prepare ourselves, better equip ourselves to do that work within our local context.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Go on.
Yeah, because there is a lot of sharing that goes on, and so you get to know what's happening in across the across the country, what's happening in California, what's happening in Washington, what's happening in the middle of the United States, where you might not get that chance. And so there's a lot of networking that happens at these events that wouldn't happen otherwise, I think.
And do you think this experience sort of reinforced the importance of communications and networking for you in preparation for ministry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a huge piece of my own development, and cannot be understated of how much I learned from others, and thinking about how God is working in the church and in the world in ways that I would not think of by myself.
Okay, that's very good. I can't believe, but our time is up. It really went rapidly. My guest today has been Jay Eckman, who is a second-year seminarian at the Lutheran Theological Seminary at Gettysburg. For the Seminary Explorers, this is Nelson Stroberg. Have a good day.
You have been listening to The Seminary Explorers from historic Seminary Ridge in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a production of Gettysburg Seminary. We invite you to visit our website at www.ltsg.edu. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Gettysburg Seminary or the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America.